Ethan stood at the edge of a quiet metallic hall, a hall that stretched like a tunnel of silver light. He could feel his heart thumping inside his chest, each beat echoing inside him like a small drum. For 2 long years, he had traveled through strange worlds, fought monsters he never knew existed, and survived nights filled with fear and loneliness. Every step he had taken had been driven by one dream: to return home. To return to Earth. To return to the life he once loved. Now, that dream stood right in front of him. The portal shimmered softly like the first light of morning. Its golden glow painted his face in warm color. Ethan reached out his hand, and when his fingers touched the warm air around the portal, his breath caught in his throat. It felt like standing near a window on a sunny day back on Earth. It felt like hope. It felt like home. He closed his eyes for a moment and imagined everything he missed. He saw the kitchen where his mother cooked warm meals every evening. He saw the small living room where he and his little sister used to argue about who got the last cookie. He saw his old bed, messy but comforting. He heard the sound of the neighborhood, children playing, cars on the street, the familiar noises that had once annoyed him but now felt like music in his memory. He breathed in slowly, as if he could smell Earth again. A smile touched his lips. "Just one step," he whispered to himself. "Just one step and I'm home." But just when he took a small step forward, the calm began to break. The air behind him shifted. The temperature dropped slightly. Ethan felt a strange tension crawl across his skin, the same kind of feeling he felt during danger. The same feeling he got right before a battle. Slowly, he turned around. That was when he saw her, the alien queen of Varian. She stood tall at the entrance of the hall, her silver armor shining like moonlight on water. Her posture was straight, strong, and full of authority. Even though her claws were folded behind her, Ethan could feel the power she carried. Her eyes were a deep violet color, glowing softly in the dim light. Those eyes had watched over thousands of worlds. Those eyes had commanded armies. Those eyes had once saved his life, but now those eyes were locked directly on him. "Human," she said, her voice cold yet strangely calm. "Stop," Ethan froze. Her voice held a power that touched the air itself. It was like the hall inhaled with her words. Somehow her tone was not angry, but it was sharp enough to cut through his excitement and hope. His hand slowly fell back to his side. The warm air of the portal faded from his fingertips. For a moment, Ethan could not speak. His throat felt tight. He had worked so hard to reach this place. He had believed that once he stood in front of the portal, nothing could stop him. Not monsters. Not planets. Not ancient machines. Nothing. But he hadn't expected her. "Your Majesty," he said softly, trying to keep his voice steady. I thought you said I could go home." The queen's face did not show emotion, but something in her eyes shifted. She stepped forward, her movements slow and regal. Every footstep echoed through the hall like a small thunder. "I remember my promise," she said. "But there is something you must hear before you leave." Ethan's heart sank a little. He did not want to hear anything. Not now. He wanted the feeling of that warm glow again. He wanted the peace he had imagined every night before falling. Asleep on a foreign bed under an unfamiliar sky. Ethan swallowed and tried to smile politely. "Can it wait? Just a moment?" "I only want to." "No," the queen said, her voice firm. "This cannot wait." Ethan looked at the portal, so close he could almost feel it calling him. Then he looked back at the queen, who stood like a wall between him and the life he wanted to return to. He felt torn, confused, afraid, and for the first time in a long time, he wondered if going home would truly be as simple as taking one more step. But the queen's eyes told him something important, something heavy, something that would change everything. Ethan took a small breath as the alien queen walked closer, her silver armor reflecting the soft golden light of the portal behind him. The hall felt colder now, as if her presence carried a quiet storm. He tried to keep his hands steady, but his fingers shook slightly. Part of him wanted to run into the portal and vanish before she reached him. Another part knew he owed her respect. She had saved his life more than once. He couldn't pretend she didn't matter, still. Why now? Why stop him when home was just one step away? "Your Majesty," Ethan said carefully, "I did everything you asked. I fought for your people. I helped save your colony. You promised me I could go home." His voice cracked slightly at the end, but he kept his eyes steady. The queen stopped only a few steps away. Her tall figure cast a long shadow that stretched over Ethan's boots. She was silent for a moment, and Ethan felt like the whole universe held its breath. "I remember my promise," she said finally, her voice calm but heavy. "But there is something you must understand before you leave." Ethan clenched his jaw. He didn't want explanations. He didn't want another mission or another responsibility. He just wanted to go home. He wanted Earth. He wanted the life he lost. "Please," he said softly. "Let me go." The Queen tilted her head slightly, as if studying the small tremble in his voice. Her violet eyes were not cold anymore. They were softer, almost sad. "When we found you," she said, "you were alone, injured, and close to death. Your world had no signal, no search parties, nothing that told us you were being looked for." Ethan frowned. "That's not true. My people would never abandon me." The Queen took another slow step toward him. "I do not speak of their intentions. I speak of the truth we found. When my scouts discovered your broken ship, the only things inside were a half-damaged photo of your family and your heartbeat slowly fading." Ethan swallowed hard. He remembered that day, the crash, the blood, the cold. He remembered trying to keep his eyes open, long enough to say one last goodbye in his mind. He had thought he would die alone, but the Queen had saved him, still. That didn't mean she owned his future. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, "I'm grateful for everything you did, truly, but I've been away too long. I just want to go home." The Queen looked at him like someone watching a fragile object that might break with the smallest touch. "You speak of home," she said, "as if it is the only thing you lost. But do you forget what you found?" Ethan looked confused. "What did I find?" "You found courage," she said. "Strength, purpose. You helped my people when you could have walked away. You protected our young when even seasoned warriors would have stepped back. We did not expect that from a human." Ethan looked away, embarrassed. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," the Queen said firmly. "Not everyone. Not in a galaxy filled with fear." He felt a sting in his chest. For so long, he had tried to stay strong. But hearing her speak these words made him feel exposed, vulnerable. He didn't want to be a symbol. He didn't want to be a hero for someone else's world. He wanted to be a brother again, a son again. He wanted to sit at a table and eat food that tasted familiar. He wanted to rest. "Please," he whispered. "I'm tired." The Queen's expression softened again. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I know," she said. "But there is a danger coming. Something dark. Something powerful. And my people? We need you." Ethan felt his heart stop for a second. "Need him? Why him? I'm not a soldier," he said, his voice shaking. "I'm not a leader. I'm just Amai." The Queen slowly knelt down until her eyes were level with his. Her heavy armor made a soft echo as it touched the floor. "You saved my daughter," she whispered. "You carried her out of fire when everyone else ran. You saved countless others. You gave us hope when we were drowning in fear. If hope is not heroic, then what is?" Ethan couldn't look at her. His throat tightened and his eyes burned. "But I just want to go home," he said. Barely able to speak, the Queen looked at him with calm sadness. "And I want my people to live," she replied. Ethan felt the weight of her words crash over him. Duty versus heart. Hope versus home. For the first time, he feared the truth. Going home would not be simple anymore. Ethan took a step back from the portal, his chest tight, his thoughts spinning like a storm. He could still feel the warmth of home calling to him, the golden light promising comfort, safety, and familiarity. He imagined walking into his mother's kitchen again, smelling her cooking, hearing his sister laugh, feeling the peace of a world untouched by war. His heart ached for it. Every fiber of his being wanted to reach out and step through that glowing door. But behind him stood the alien Queen. Her violet eyes followed him, unwavering, patient, and yet commanding. She had saved him once. She had protected him, guided him, and even trusted him with battles no human could survive. She was a ruler feared across galaxies, and right now, she was asking him to stay. To fight again. To risk everything he had longed to get back. Ethan shook his head slightly, trying to clear the fear and confusion that clouded his mind. I can't," he whispered. His voice was soft, almost trembling. "I survived 2 years in space, 2 years of danger, of battles I never wanted. I thought the end would be home. That one step and everything would be okay." The Queen's gaze softened, but it didn't lose its intensity. She stepped closer, each movement deliberate, like a tide pulling him towards something inevitable. "And yet," she said gently, "the end is not yet here. You may go home, yes, but the threat is coming, Ethan. A threat that will not wait for your comfort, your dreams, or your peace. It is coming, and it will touch your world. And your people will need you. Ethan's chest tightened. His fingers clenched into fists at his sides. He had imagined danger and war in distant stars, but not on Earth, not on the planet that held everything he loved. I can't risk them, he said. His voice cracked with emotion. I can't go home if going home means bringing this danger with me. My family, my friends, they're just people. They don't know about aliens or battles across the stars. They don't deserve this. The Queen knelt slowly, lowering herself so that her massive frame was closer to his level. The soft click of her armor echoed in the hall. I do not ask you to risk yourself lightly, she said. I do not ask you to be a hero for my people alone. I ask you to stand because you have already seen what loss can bring. You have already survived the impossible. And yet, you are still human. That is why you matter. Ethan looked down, blinking back tears he had tried to ignore. I'm not a hero, he said quietly. I'm not a fighter. I'm just a human. Scared, tired, and broken from everything I've seen. The Queen reached out, placing a clawed hand gently on his shoulder. Despite her intimidating appearance, the touch was calm, grounding, almost reassuring. Being human does not make you weak, she said. Being human makes your courage stronger than many warriors' blades. You saved my daughter. You carried children out of fire. You stood in front of enemies who could have destroyed you in seconds. And yet, you kept going. That is strength. That is hope. Ethan's vision blurred with tears. He wanted to argue, to tell her he was not strong, not brave, not capable. But deep down, he knew she was right. Every step he had taken, every decision he had made, had been guided by hope, the hope of seeing home again, the hope of keeping the people he cared about alive. Even if he had not recognized it at the time, his courage had been a beacon in the darkness. He stepped back from the portal slightly, feeling the weight of the Queen's words pressing on him. His heart screamed for home, for comfort, for peace. Yet another voice, a deeper, heavier voice, whispered responsibility, duty, and protection. Home could wait. Perhaps it must wait. He began, his voice shaky. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I have the strength to face what's coming. The Queen looked at him, her violet eyes softening, almost human now. You have already faced it, she said. You survived the impossible. You are stronger than you know. And if you step forward now, not for me, not for my people, but for those you love, you will prove something the universe often forgets. Even a single human can change the fate of many worlds. Ethan swallowed, feeling a strange mixture of fear, doubt, and resolve swirl inside him. His legs felt heavy, but the weight of purpose now rested alongside the weight of longing. He realized painfully that home might not just be a place. It might be something he needed to fight for. Something he had to protect. He looked at the portal one last time. The light seemed to shimmer more brightly, almost mocking him. And yet, he knew, in his heart, that turning away now was not defeat. It was choice. Choice to fight, to protect, to do what no one else could do. Ethan took a deep breath. He stepped back from the golden light. His eyes met the Queen's, and for the first time in a long while, he felt clarity. His heart still ached for home, but he knew the path forward demanded courage, the courage of a human who refused to give up. Even when the world was uncertain, even when the universe itself seemed to weigh him down, home was calling, yes. But duty had found him first. Ethan stood in silence, his chest still tight from the storm of emotions that the Queen's words had stirred in him. The portal behind him glowed softly, golden and warm, as if whispering promises of peace and home. He could almost feel the smell of earth in that light, the wet grass after rain, the old wooden floors of his childhood home, the faint scent of his mother's cooking. Every nerve in his body screamed to step forward and embrace it. But he did not move. The Queen's presence anchored him in place, her eyes holding secrets that he did not yet understand. You speak of duty, Ethan said finally, his voice low. But I've already survived so much. I've walked through fire, fought creatures that could tear me apart in seconds, and yet, I've always wanted to return home. I can't do this again. I just want my life back. The Queen studied him carefully. Her violet eyes seemed to see right through his fear, through the layers of exhaustion and hope, straight into the heart of him. She sighed, a sound that was almost human, and took a step closer. The soft echo of her armored boots rang through the hall. There is something you do not know, she said. Something I have kept from you." Ethan's stomach tightened. He felt a cold knot of fear settle in his chest. He had faced horrors in distant worlds, but her tone made his blood run cold. What is it?" he asked cautiously. She raised her hand, and for a moment, the light from the portal reflected in her violet eyes like distant stars. "The enemy we fear has already traced your path. They know where you come from. They are coming to your world." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He blinked, unsure if he had heard her correctly. "No, that's impossible," he whispered. "Earth, my home. It's safe. You told me your battles never touched my system. They couldn't have." "Not yet." The Queen shook her head slowly. "At the time it was true. But your courage, your survival, it drew attention. Your path across the stars was visible to them. They have tracked you, Ethan, and they are coming." A sharp pain struck Ethan's chest. His hands trembled. He stumbled backward, nearly hitting the wall behind him. My world? You mean Earth? They'll attack?" His voice shook. The warmth of the portal felt distant now, almost cruel in contrast to the horror of her revelation. "Yes," the Queen said gently. "They are relentless. They seek to extinguish light wherever it appears, and your bravery, your survival, has become a beacon." Ethan's mind spun. He had imagined returning home, safe and sound, and yet here he was, confronted with a truth that made his dream feel impossible. He had risked his life in distant galaxies, faced unimaginable threats, and now, those very actions might bring danger to everything he loved. His heart ached at the thought of his family, his friends, the streets of his old city. They were ordinary people, completely unaware of the darkness that could be coming for them. He sank to his knees. The glow of the portal washed over him, but it offered no comfort. It was a cruel reminder of what could be lost. He felt small, fragile, overwhelmed by the weight of responsibility that had suddenly fallen on him. Tears stung his eyes, hot and unbidden. He had survived so much, and yet the thought of failing the people he loved now felt unbearable. The Queen knelt beside him, her armor cold against his shoulder, yet her presence somehow grounding him. "This is not your fault," she said softly. "No human could have imagined this outcome. But you have been given a choice. You can step into the light of home, or you can stand with us and give your world a chance to survive." Ethan shook his head, his lips trembling. I wanted so badly to just go home. To rest, to forget all the pain in the war. I don't know if I can be strong enough. Not again." The Queen's eyes softened. "Strength is not about never feeling fear or pain. It is about standing even when your heart is heavy, even when your hands shake, even when the world seems to crush you. You have that strength, Ethan. You always have." Ethan looked at her, seeing not a queen, not a ruler, but someone who had believed in him when no one else did. Someone who had saved his life, carried him through darkness, and now asked him to make a choice that could change everything. He closed his eyes, took a trembling breath, and felt the weight of the truth settle in his chest. Home was no longer a place he could reach without danger. His world, his family, the life he loved, all were at risk. And if he turned back now, he might lose everything he had ever wanted. The golden light of the portal flickered behind him, warm and inviting, a reminder of peace that was no longer certain. And the Queen's voice, steady and calm, filled the hall. "Ethan, what will you choose? Will you protect those you love, even if it means giving up the dream of home, at least for now?" Ethan opened his eyes. His throat felt tight, but his heart began to settle into a strange, heavy resolve. He looked at the Queen, and though fear lingered, he felt something else. Purpose. Home was no longer a promise. It was now a responsibility. And Ethan realized he could not turn away. Ethan stood frozen for a long moment, the weight of the Queen's words pressing down on him like a mountain. The warmth of the portal behind him called to every part of his being, whispering promises of safety, of peace, of home. He could almost feel his mother's hand on his shoulder, almost hear the laughter of his sister echoing through the familiar rooms of his house. His chest ached with longing, a longing that cut sharper than any weapon he had faced in the distant battles among the stars. But then he remembered her words, the alien Queen's warning, her plea, the truth that his survival had painted a target on Earth. His fingers trembled as he clenched them into fists. How could he step through that glowing doorway, knowing the danger he might bring with him? How could he walk toward home while his world teetered on the edge of annihilation? He shook his head and muttered, almost to himself, I can't do this. I'm not strong enough. I can't fight their wars. I can't save them. The queen stepped closer, her presence calm but heavy, like a quiet storm. Her violet eyes never left his, filled with understanding and patience. You are stronger than you know, Ethan, she said softly. You have carried burdens no one else could bear. You have survived impossible trials, faced monsters, and yet here you stand. Fear does not make you weak, it makes you human. And being human makes your courage worth more than any blade, more than any weapon, more than any fleet of soldiers. Ethan swallowed, his throat dry. His mind raced. He wanted to argue, to shout, to run. He wanted the safety of the portal, the familiar weight of home, the comfort of his own bed. But every step toward the light now felt heavier than the miles he had walked through alien planets, heavier than the battles he had fought, heavier than the nights he had spent wondering if he would ever see Earth again. He sank to his knees, the cold floor pressing against him. Tears stung his eyes, unbidden, and he fought to blink them away. I just wanted to go home, he whispered, his voice breaking. I wanted to rest. I wanted to forget everything. I don't know if I can do this. I'm tired. So tired. The queen knelt before him, placing her massive, clawed hand gently on his shoulder. Her touch was surprisingly warm, grounding, a reminder that he was not alone. It is because you are tired that you must stand, she said. Not for me, not for my people, but for those you love. You have already seen what it means to lose. You have already carried the weight of hope for others. That is why you are needed now. Ethan looked away, his eyes fixed on the golden glow of the portal. It seemed to mock him now, the promise of safety just beyond reach. Every memory of home pulled at him like a tide, each one threatening to sweep away his resolve. He imagined his mother, waiting for him in the kitchen, stirring the pot of stew he had loved. He imagined his sister, her laughter filling the house, unaware of the storm approaching. And he imagined them, unprepared, facing a darkness they could not understand because of him. His hands trembled on his knees. He felt broken. He felt small. He felt powerless. But then, he remembered all he had endured. Every night he had spent alone on alien worlds. Every battle he had faced when others ran. Every choice he had made that carried the lives of others on his shoulders. He realized that he had survived, not because he was invincible, but because he refused to give up. And that same courage, quiet, steady, stubborn, still lived inside him. I can't go home, he said finally, his voice low but resolute. Not yet. Not like this. If I go, my world, they'll be in danger. I can't risk them. The queen's violet eyes softened, and she nodded once. Then you have made your choice, she said gently. It is not the choice of comfort, but it is the choice of courage. And courage, Ethan, is what will define you more than any home ever could. Ethan wiped the tears from his face, took a deep breath, and rose to his feet. He felt the ache in his chest, the longing for home, but beneath it, a new determination began to burn. He looked at the queen, no longer with fear, but with understanding. He knew that the fight ahead would be brutal. He knew that he might not survive everything to come. But he also knew that standing aside was no longer an option. For the first time in months, he felt a strange clarity. Home was still out there, waiting. But it was no longer a promise. It was something to protect. Something to fight for. And Ethan, human, fragile, tired, and brave, would not turn away from it. He stepped forward, leaving the portal behind him, and faced the queen. I'll stay, he said firmly. I'll fight, but when this is over, I want one thing. The queen's eyes narrowed slightly, curious. Name it. When my world, my home, is safe again, he said, his voice steady. I want to return. No more missions. No more battles. I want to see my family in peace. The queen placed her clawed hand over her chest. You have my word, she said solemnly. When the time comes, you will return. Ethan nodded. His heart still ached for the home he might not see for a while. But the choice was made. He had given up the comfort of the portal for the weight of duty, for the lives of the people he loved. And in that moment, standing beside a queen from another world, he understood something he had never truly realized before. Courage was not about fighting alone. Courage was about standing when others could not. And Ethan, human and fragile, had chosen to stand. Ethan felt the weight of the queen's promise press against his chest as he followed her out of the chamber. The golden glow of the portal faded behind him, leaving only the metallic corridors of the Varian Palace, cold and silent except for the soft echoes of their footsteps. For the first time, he truly felt the consequences of his choice. He had walked away from home, leaving behind the warmth, the comfort, the life he had longed for. Every step he took forward now carried the heaviness of responsibility. The Queen walked beside him, her presence commanding yet steady. Ethan wanted to speak, to ask questions, to voice his fears, but his throat felt tight. Words were useless against the storm of thoughts racing through his mind. Earth, his family, his friends. They were out there, unaware of the danger that now loomed over them because of him. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to run back, to step through the portal, to embrace the life he had dreamed of for so long. But he could not. He had made a choice, a human choice, fragile yet resolute, and he had to honor it. "You are thinking of home," the Queen said softly, as if reading his mind. Her violet eyes met his, gentle yet firm. "And that is good. Remember why you fight. Remember what you protect. Courage is not absence of fear. Courage is action in spite of it." Ethan nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. He felt the tears pressing at the corners of his eyes, but he refused to let them fall. Not yet. Not while the weight of worlds pressed upon his shoulders. I just never thought it would feel like this," he whispered. "Leaving. Stepping away from home. It feels like I'm losing everything I wanted." The Queen's gaze softened even more. She placed her hand lightly on his shoulder. "You are not losing everything, Ethan. You are protecting everything. Sometimes, the path to saving what we love requires giving up what we want. And though this is hard, it is necessary." Ethan looked at her, truly looked, and for the first time, he saw something beyond the warrior, beyond the Queen. He saw someone who understood sacrifice, someone who carried burdens even greater than his own. For a moment, the fear in his chest lightened, replaced by a strange, grounding determination. He remembered every battle he had fought, every life he had saved, every impossible decision he had made. He had survived. He had endured. And now he would act again, not for glory, not for himself, but for those he loved. As they reached a large observation deck overlooking the city, Ethan paused. The Varian capital spread beneath them, massive and alien, yet beautiful in its own way. Ships streaked across the sky, lights flashing in rapid succession, and soldiers moved like ants below, preparing for the coming storm. The Queen stood silently beside him, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Ethan could feel her confidence, her patience, and her quiet expectation. "Will I ever see home again?" he asked softly, more to himself than to her. The Queen turned her eyes toward him. "If you survive, yes. I promised you that. One day, you will walk through your portal, and it will be yours, again. But for now, your home is here, with those who need you." Ethan's stomach twisted, and he felt a lump form in his throat. The reality of the choice he had made pressed down like a weight he could not shake. The familiar warmth of home had been replaced by responsibility, by duty, by the lives of countless beings who depended on him. And yet, he felt something strange stirring inside him. A spark, a faint light of purpose, burning steadily despite the fear and doubt. He realized that this was the first time he had truly understood the meaning of courage, not as a word, but as a living, breathing thing inside his chest. He straightened his shoulders, feeling the ache in his chest, the longing in his heart, and the fire in his spirit. He could not turn back. He could not step through the portal and pretend everything would be safe. He had chosen a path of action, of protection, of fight. He was human, fragile and flawed, yet capable of more than he had ever believed. The Queen placed a hand on his shoulder once more, and he looked at her. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice steady. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the fear, the pain, and the hope all mingled together. "I am," he said firmly. "Let's do this. Let's protect my world and yours." The Queen nodded, and for a moment, they stood in silence, two figures on the edge of a storm, facing the uncertainty of the universe. Ethan felt the tension in his body ease slightly, replaced by a clarity he had not known before. He understood now that courage was not the absence of fear, and hope was not the absence of danger. They existed alongside it, intertwined, and required choices that were sometimes unbearably hard. He looked out at the stars, shining cold and distant, and felt a strange sense of purpose. Home was not behind him, it was ahead, in the people he would protect, in the lives he would save, and in the choices he would make. And for the first time in months, he felt ready to step forward.